Psalm chapter 3 is the third psalm of the Bible. It is a personal thanksgiving to God, who answered the prayer of an afflicted soul. Psalm chapter 3 is attributed to David, in particular when he fled from Absalom his son. David, deserted by his subjects, derided by Shimei, pursued for his crown and life by his ungracious son, turns to his God, makes his supplications, and confesses his faith. The story of Absalom is found in the 2 Samuel, chapters 13 to 18. Commentary by Matthew Henry. In Matthew Henry's concise commentary, verse 1 to 3 represents David complaining to God of his enemies and confiding in God. The verses 4 to 8 represents his triumphs over his fears and giving God the glory, while taking to himself the comfort. Commentary by Adam Clarke. In Adam Clarke's commentary, verses 1 to 2 represents David's complaint, in great distress, of the number of his enemies, and the reproaches they cast on him, as one forsaken of God. Verse 3 represents his confidence, notwithstanding, that God will be his protector. The verse 4 to 5 mention David's prayers and supplications, and how God heard him. Verses 6 to 7 deride the impotent malice of his adversaries, and foretell their destruction. The final verse ascribes salvation to God. Verse 1, Lord, how they increased that trouble me. The hearts of all Israel went after Absalom, and David was astonished to find such a sudden and general revolt. Not only the common people, but his counselors also, and many of his chief captains. The verse 2, no help for him in God, one of many reproaches of his enemies. Shimei said, Come out, thou bloody man, and thou man of Belial. The Lord hath returned upon thee all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose stead thou hast reigned, and the Lord hath delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom thy son. And, behold, thou art taken in thy mischief, because thou art a bloody man. Such reproaches deeply affected David's heart, and he mentions them with that note which so frequently occurs in the Psalms, and occurs in Psalm chapter 3 for the first time, Selah, a word the Septuagint translate by diaralma diasama, a pause in the psalm. Quote, it either comes from lsal, to raise or elevate, and may denote a particular elevation in the voices of the performers, which is very observable in the Jewish singing to the present day. It may come from hlsala, to strew or spread out, intimating that the subject to which the word is attached should be spread out, meditated on, and attentively considered by the reader. The verse 3, Thou, O Lord, art a shield. As a shield covers and defends the body from the strokes of an adversary, so wilt thou cover and defend me from them that rise up against me. The lifter up of mine head, thou wilt restore me to the state from which my enemies have cast me down. As he speaks prophetically, he was satisfied that the deliverance would take place, hence his confidence in prayer, so that we find him, with comparative unconcern, laying himself down in his bed, expecting the sure protection of the Almighty. The verse 4, I cried unto the Lord with my voice. Exposed to much danger, David had need of fervor. He had me, notwithstanding my enemies said, and my friends feared, that there was no help for me in my God. Yet he heard me out of his holy hill. Selah. God never forsakes those who trust in him. He never shuts out the prayer of the distressed. The verse 5, I laid me down and slept. He who knows that he has God for his protector may go quietly and confidently to his bed, not fearing the violence of the fire, the edge of the sword, the designs of wicked men, nor the influence of malevolent spirits. I waked. Though humanly speaking there was reason to fear I should have been murdered in my bed, as my most confidential servants had been corrupted by my rebellious son. Yet God, my shield, protected me. I both slept and awaked, and my life is still whole in me. Verse 6, I will not be afraid of 10,000s. Strength and numbers are nothing against the omnipotence of God. He who has made God his refuge certainly has no cause to fear. Verse 7. Arise, O Lord. Though he knew that God had undertaken his defense, yet he knew that his continued protection depended on his continual prayer and faith. God never ceases to help as long as we pray. Thou hast smitten, that is, thou wilt smite. David speaks in full confidence of God's interference, and knows as surely that he shall have the victory, as if he had it already. Breaking the jaws and the teeth are expressions which imply confounding and destroying an adversary, treating him with extreme contempt, using him like a dog, and c. Verse 8. Salvation belongeth unto the Lord. It is God alone who saves. He is the fountain whence help and salvation come, and to him alone the praise of all saved souls is due. His blessing is upon his people. Those who are saved from the power and the guilt of sin are his people. His mercy saved them, and it is by his blessing being continually upon them that they continue to be saved. David adds his Selah here also. 1. Salvation comes from God. 2. Salvation is continued by God. Martin Luther. Writers like Martin Luther felt that, overall, the goal in this psalm is to impart the confidence of those who consider themselves followers of YHWH to call on him. But you, Yahweh, are a shield around me, my glory, and uplift my head. This is the emphatic prayer of the oppressed who turn aside to YHWH. Although written in the mouth of David, the reader is encouraged to consider how God rescues someone like David, who was at the time very in distress, saved and later raised to be king over all Israel. Commentary by St. Augustine of Hippo New Advent. St. Musical settings. Psalm chapter 3 has been scored in music by many artists, including Thou Art a Shield for Me by Byron Cage. Christian karaoke praise song. Psalm chapter 3 Worship by Andrew Bain. In 1691, Michel Richard de Lalande composed his grand motet Domini quid sunt multiplicati for the officers of the Chapel of Versailles. Uses Judaism. Verses 2-9 are part of the prayers of the bedtime Shema, and occasional sunrise Shema. Verse 9 is the 8th verse of V'Hu Rachim in Peschi Zimra and is also found in Havdalah. Verse 9 is the 8th verse of V'Hu Rachim to Peschi Zimra and also in the Havdalah. Eastern Orthodox Church. Psalm chapter 3 is the first psalm of the 6 psalms, which are read as part of every Orthros service. During the reading of the 6 psalms, movement and noise are strongly discouraged, as it is regarded as one of the most holy moments of the Orthros service. Catholic Church. About 530 in the rule of Saint Benedict of Nursia chose this psalm for the beginning of the office of Matins, namely as the first psalm in the liturgy of the Benedictine during the year. In the abbeys that preserve the tradition, it is currently the first psalm Sunday for Office Vigilis. Given the current liturgy of the hours, 3 psalms is sung or recited the first office of readings on Sunday after the first 2 psalms.